I know one of these buttons will work. I'm sure maybe it's this one over here. Then suddenly that funny soundbite will kick in. It'll be great. Just wait till that happens. Well, happy Monday to you. I hope your weekend was as great as our weekend. We had a great American weekend. Sure did. Picture yourself on a boat on a river. Great fun on Saturday. Gun show on Sunday. 2-hour lunch, 2.5-hour lunch at Bourbon Boulevard yesterday. Couldn't be better. Friends. There was no family around this way. It was just friends and not family. Wonderful stuff. A great American weekend. Weather was real good. Beer was cold. Nice breeze. You know, it was real good stuff. And wonderful stuff. I hope you had a great weekend as well. It's good to be an American. We got to save this project because the Democrats are choking the life out of it. Everywhere you look, the front page of the Washington Post today, awful, horrible, fake newspaper. Picture of a whole bunch of Africans eating with their hands, squatted around a blanket in a kitchen somewhere, and they're shoveling food into their pie holes with their hands out of a bowl plate of some kind. And a home in Ohio for African immigrants with nowhere to go. Like Zach Mayo in An Officer and a Gentile. They got no place else to go. And it's a long story about a big front page story above the fold and with a big long jump. And this whole gang of Africans, they're from Mauritania. And the Mauritanians, they've settled in Cincinnati, Ohio. And they fled Islamism because it's so brutal and savage and violent and blood-drenched and, you know, all the murders and the militias and all that stuff. And then on the jump of the story, they're all standing up in their full-length Muslim garb. It's prayer time. So they escaped Islam, but now it's here. And they got their prayer rugs out and the mats and all that stuff. And the Mauritanian immigration, it's the Ohio, because, you know, naturally, where else would you be? The Mauritanians going to Cincinnati, Ohio, because the Democrats are fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And they need to be voted out of office forever, permanently. The Democrat Party needs to be banished, the United States of America. Speaking of which, in Europe, you know, you've heard of it. It's kind of a boutique continent across the Atlantic Ocean. And they had elections last week, and they had some interesting results because pretty much every civilized country in Europe that was voting last week they're kicking out the lefties. They're kicking out the Green Party. They're kicking out all the people that are open borders and let's flood Europe with immigrants from beep-hole countries that have contempt for your culture. But in Poland, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in France, in Austria, Slovenia, and Croatia, in Italy and Spain, the lefties got a nice kick to the pants, a kick in the pants. And lefties are really irate about it because they want to wreck everything, burn it to the ground. Western civilization is under assault by the left, primarily. That's the prime driver. Sure, you have the Islamists and the jihadis and the medievalists and the troglodytes, but really it's the left driving it everywhere you look. And I was reading an interview, and one of the political experts in Europe, and he said that this was, you had your picture taken with Greta von Thunberg a couple of years ago in order to get elected, and now the politicians there are making their pictures of themselves with Greta von Thunberg disappear because now she's a cancer. She's a tumor. It's not a tumor. It is a tumor. And Greta von Thunberg, she is, she's unbelievable. 90% of her fun is below the waterline, and somebody else's yacht takes her there, but never mind that. And now the lefties in Europe, conservative parties make gains in EU Parliament vote because the left is being kicked out. And in large part, it's because everywhere you go in Europe, You're being overrun by hostile people from hostile countries where it's not even a matter of crime rate. It's like a constant ongoing state of war. And then let's wave everybody in. No language, no skills, no education. And hey, let's bring them in by the millions and millions because Democrats. Speaking of Democrats, one of their illegal aliens was arrested in Maryland. Well, actually was arrested in Oklahoma for a murder because they just traveled all over the place, usually on our dime. And this illegal alien from El Salvador murdered a woman named Rachel Morin, has been arrested, hasn't been tried and convicted and hanged yet, but going to be brought back to Maryland, so probably never will be. Probably become teacher of the year in an elementary school. But an illegal alien that is now in custody for the murder of the mother of five children, Rachel Morin, who was out for a walk jog, and then an illegal alien from El Salvador came along and raped her and beat her and murdered her and escaped, and then thanked Joe Biden and the Democrat Party for this opportunity to destroy a family and murder a woman after raping her. And because the Democrats, they love gang members from beep hole countries, and they want to bring them in here by the millions. They've already brought them in by the, how many gang members from, how many illegal alien gang members are there in the country now, Michael? I know Michael was researching this over the weekend. How many illegal alien, he wasn't really, illegal alien gang members in the United States that came in under Joe Biden's watch that are murdering people? You know, like a young nursing student named Laken Riley, or a young woman named Ruby Garcia, or a mother of five named Rachel Morin, and the list. And honestly, I was texting Michael this morning, how is it that George Floyd, a career criminal with fentanyl and methamphetamine coursing through his system, passing a counterfeit $20 bill to an immigrant family, trying to rob them and rip them off, and the police come, and while he's resisting arrest, he has a cardiac event and dies, and it's a sad end to a sad life, tragic. George Floyd. And he becomes a household name, and the Democrats burn our country to the ground and make looting normal and burning and overturning police cars by the hundreds of thousands. And that's just fine. But when a wonderful young mother of five children and wife is raped and murdered by an illegal alien from El Salvador, somehow the news media that's not a story. There will be no rioting. There will be no looting. There will be no overturned police cars. No assaults on courthouses that go on and on. The White House will not be under attack because we're not the left. We're normal people. We represent civilization. And the left represents the end of civilization. And that's why they're in bed with radical Islamic Jihad and Hamas and Iran, as Joe Biden is and Barack Obama is. Speaking of which, you saw over the weekend that Joe Biden came back from Italy on Air Force One, where he embarrassed himself and went wandering off to talk to nobody. And the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, had to walk over and take him by the arm and bring him back to, where the world leaders were and where the event was going on, because he had lost awareness. All situational awareness had escaped him. Joe Biden and Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, who was depicted as a radical right-wing extremist. She's Hitler, which is what the left calls everybody now because they're Hitler. In fact, I want to, that Victoria Nuland from the State Department, she told us about the Russian playbook and how everything they accuse you of is what they're doing themselves. And we see example after example of that every day in the United States, of the left accusing you of being exactly what they are. It is, it's a Saul Alinsky, it's a Russia, Soviet Union thing, really. But never mind that. So Joe Biden came back from Italy after embarrassing us and himself and Western civilization, being a doofus and an idiot and a brain-dead Democrat president of the United States. Pretty amazing stuff. Came home, then he went to Los Angeles for a big fundraiser with some pretty boring people, I gotta say, with George Clooney. George Clooney's there, and he's been in movies. And then Julia Roberts, she was in Pretty Woman. I think that was about 35 years ago. And Jimmy Kimmel, does he still have a late night show, or has that completely failed? Because that's pretty much gone. And then you got Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman's done a couple of perfectly nice shows over the years, but I really don't care what your politics are, Jason Bateman. And now that I know what they are, I think, I'm going to be less likely to watch your idiot shows, but never mind that. And Jack Black, who is dressed like a clown. Did you see him? He looked like a homeless clown at this thing, Jack Black. And he was funny in one movie, I think. What was he, an Anchorman? He was an Anchorman. And he kicked that dog off the bridge. That was a funny moment. That was probably the funniest moment of his life. And it's not that he's unfunny. He's been funny in the past. But you show up like a homeless clown at this thing with Joe Biden, and then there was the real headliner of the show, because our entire political system is show business, and that was Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama was there. And they were, and it was a big, stadium kind of thing, huge theater. And everybody was really thrilled. And Joe Biden slipped into a coma again. And he was standing there with his mouth hanging open, squinting at the crowd. He had no idea where he was, apparently. That's my assessment. I am a psychiatrist. And I was watching him along with everybody else. And Joe Biden is standing there, blank stare, just has no idea where he is. To the point where, and they're clapping and clapping, nobody had anything else to say. And Jimmy Kimmel, honestly, is hosting an event with the current president of the United States and a former president of the United States who is, honestly, it's just ridiculous. And Barack Obama noticed, Joe Biden slipped away again. He slipped into a coma. And Barack Obama took Joe Biden by the wrist and turned him while his mouth is hanging up and smiling like he sees ice cream or something. And Barack Obama turned Joe Biden and was walking him off stage. It was like, it was crazy. It was like, visiting Satan, the Democrats' choice in home care. And it's, he's not a visiting angel, he's Satan. And it was clear to me when I watched it, what occurred to me was, this is the control that Barack Obama has over the Biden administration, that the Biden administration isn't really the Biden administration, it's the third Obama administration. And it was also kind of a signal to Democrats that it's time to dump Joe Biden because he's brain dead and he can't do the job. He's not up to the job. Not the big parts, not the small parts, not the showbiz parts, not the just stand there and smile for a photo op part. He's not up for any of it. He can't do the job. And he has to go. He has to go right away. He should leave office today. And then they'll figure out what to do with Kamala because nobody will vote for her. But that's one of their big problems. I watched this and, the visiting Satan, we were singing visiting demons. We were trying out different words. Visiting Satan. And Obama walked him out and put his hand on Joe Biden's back. And Joe Biden's walking with his arms limp at his sides and his mouth hanging open as he shuffled off the stage back behind the curtain. And all the idiots are clapping like the drug-addled seals that they are in Los Angeles. And then they brag about how much money they raised. And it was the biggest Democrat fundraiser in history, they said. But a lot of people don't believe them since they lie all the time. And even Mika Brzezinski and MSDNC, they were like, gee, I don't know if that's really the biggest fundraiser, but they say it is, but we don't really believe them. And then 1 minute later, they turn around and they condemn money in politics. They condemn millionaires and billionaires and pay your fair share. And then they say, hey, we had the biggest fundraiser we've ever had. And honestly, Joe Biden needs to go into a permanent care facility of some kind. The fact that he's the president of the United States is a danger to civilization itself. But fear not, he's not really the president. Barack Obama is. And Barack Obama came and took him like it was his grandfather, or Barack wasn't looking like a spring chicken the other day either, maybe just like his father. And he walked him off stage, visiting demon style. And then everybody just applauded, yay, look, it's like the Soviet Union. Soviet Union used to have these cadaverous, stuffed, ancient relics standing up, reviewing the troops in Red Square as the tanks went by. And we made fun of them back then. Now we are them. Well, the Democrat Party is them. Amazing stuff. So I got more on that, and the news media responding not really to Joe Biden being a zombie and being walked off stage by Barack Obama, who's the puppet man. I'm going like this with my hand, like I got my hand in a sock puppet, because he's the puppet master. And can you say master? You know how they hate that. And God, they're unbelievable, aren't they? And we are at 888-630-9625. All right, let's go to a phone call. I got to tell you, I've been thinking about one of our callers from Friday. I was thinking about her all weekend, and I want to talk about that caller from Friday a little later on too. Right now, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Bill, calling from Gaithersburg, Maryland. William, let's go to William. Bill, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Love you, Chris. Love you like the brother from another mother that you are. We got to be careful, man. Biden is a beatable candidate, but if they run Michelle Obama or somebody else, we could be in real trouble.
Yeah, you know, and
Big Mike for the win could scare us. Can imagine the country after that.
Big Mike, I like Big Mike. You know, a lot of people refer to Michelle Obama as Michael or Mike or Big Mike because remember the Joan Rivers thing, right, Bill? With Joan Rivers. She made fun of the Obamas, and 2 weeks later she was killed. And I
had that in for her.
Yeah, a mysterious moment at a clinic, an exclusive clinic in New York City. But it has been noticed that she's pretty butch, and you're right about we should be more concerned. And Joe Biden is beatable. Here is Joan Rivers.
Do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
We all know. See, that was Joan Rivers, who was always hilarious. And then she went in for a minor procedure at a very exclusive Manhattan clinic a couple of weeks later, and she didn't survive that. What do you think about that?
That'll get you Epstein. That'll get you Epstein.
I'm telling you, that is amazing. But you think we should stick with Biden because he's easier to beat than Mike.
Well, I'm from Maryland, so there's no hope of Trump winning. But I am putting up Kennedy stickers everywhere because I want to try to divert as much of that energy away from the Democrat Party as possible. So think about this strategically. Diabolical.
Bill from Gaithersburg, thank you very much. So many crazy, crazy things. Your Democrat Party. Aren't they amazing? There's a great story. I hope to get to this. In Philadelphia, gangs of coffee house employees voted to unionize. And a week later, all of the outlets were shut down. They were shut down. They voted to unionize. And now they're all out of work. And that's OCF Coffee House. That's the name of the organization. And now they're furious that the coffee houses that they wanted to unionize are shut down because they priced themselves out of the market. And now they're all homeless people hooked on fentanyl living in cardboard boxes. And somehow, even though they're all white, it's the fault of white people. And they're wearing Arab headdresses. They're wearing, around their shoulders as shawls and things. And that's good. So the OCF Coffee House employees voted to unionize in Philadelphia. And a week later, all of the outlets got shut down. Ian Miles Chong reporting on his X. Now they're mad about that too and are demanding that they reopen. It's not how anything works, but they're all in their 20s and they're not very bright because they were raised by Democrats, raised by liberals, and then you end up being wrong about everything. Your understanding of the world is completely mistaken, misguided. You're a Democrat. Never mind that. Speaking of Democrats, let's get to the big money fundraiser in California that has the Democrats touching themselves again. Usually they're touching other people inappropriately. Now they're touching themselves. Pretty amazing stuff. And they're excited. And some of these are ridiculous. National Panhandler Radio, left-wing radical extremists, fundamentally anti-civilizational, anti-American, anti-capitalist. The headline is, Biden says the next president may get to name 2 Supreme Court justices, NPR. And they have colon, and then after that, we already know it's NPR. It's on the NPR website. Who else could it be? It's National Panhandler Radio. Biden says the next president may get to name 2 Supreme Court justices. And they really, honestly, they want to abort members of the Supreme Court. They love abortion so much. There are more ridiculous abortion things today, too. God, they love abortion. They're insane. Joe Biden was pushing abortion in Italy, where the Pope lives. He was meeting with the Pope and pushing abortion on the Italian government because they really love the organ harvest, honestly. And all kinds crazy. This one is obscene, too. The Department of Justice under Joe Biden and Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland was almost on the Supreme Court, but the finger of God intervened, and so he won't be. DOJ won't prosecute A.G. Garland. See how everything has to be an abbreviation? I remember when we spoke English in this country. The Department of Justice won't prosecute Attorney General Merrick Garland after House Republicans vote to hold him in contempt of Congress. This is what goes on in third world countries. And we are a third world country with a more or less first world economy, but we're $34 trillion in debt. And these guys are murdering our country. They're murdering everything in our country. And they're getting mothers of 5 murdered in Maryland because of their open border policies and so on. But they won't prosecute us. Hey, Mr. Attorney General, should we prosecute you? And the Attorney General said, no, there will be no prosecution of me. And then the corrupt news media and left-wing radicals at Mediaite and so on, they write up their little stories. Oh, it's real good that the Attorney General isn't going to prosecute the Attorney General just because the Attorney General broke the law, and he's our chief law enforcement officer in the United States. Barack Obama's wingman, his Attorney General, Eric Holder, I think he's Eric H. Holder Jr., he was held in contempt of Congress too, and he laughed and brushed it off because Democrats in this third world country that we have, the United States of America, this banana republic, there is no accountability for the left because the left, they've taken over the institutions and the permanent bureaucracy. So, they could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they wouldn't lose a single vote in the permanent bureaucracy. Isn't that amazing? All right. So you got just a few things there. Now let's go to what happened at this LA fundraiser the other day, because this is pretty amazing stuff. And here's the New York Post. Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at Mega Bucks LA fundraiser. And keep in mind that Mega Bucks LA fundraisers or New York fundraisers or Dubai fundraisers, where there are millionaires and billionaires giving to Democrats, those are good. See? Those are good. Now, if the millionaires and billionaires are in New York or Los Angeles or in Dubai and they're raising money for Republicans who are pro-American, then that's bad. See? Because that's how corrupt and filthy these people are, and keep them away from the children, too. But amazing stuff. Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at the Mega Bucks LA fundraiser. Amazing stuff. And Chris Nessie at the New York Post with the story. President Biden appeared to freeze up on stage and had to be led off by Barack Obama visiting demons at the conclusion of a star-studded campaign fundraiser in Los Angeles on Saturday night. Now, star-studded is generous, I think, and probably overstatement. The awkward moment took place after Biden and his predecessor sat for a 45-minute interview with the late-night host Jimmy Kimmel at the Peacock Theater. They went to the Peacock Theater. Why were they at the Peacock Theater? I can't say. Because of radio rules. I can't explain why they were there. But as the men stood for applause, Biden's gaze seemed to become fixed on the crowd for a full 10 seconds until former President Barack Obama took his wrist and led him off stage. Now, it was a very peculiar moment. And it was another demonstration of the fact, and we got one in Italy when he wandered off, the parachutists demonstrating. Then they land right in front of the world leaders of the G7. And Joe Biden wandered off like, hey, where's my visiting angel? And the Italian prime minister had to go grab him by the arm and bring him back to where everybody was because he's brain damaged. So it's like that. And Chris Gardner typing on X, that's a wrap on record-setting Democrat fundraiser for Joe Biden's reelection campaign, netting $28 million. I think they've updated that to $30 million since. Former President Barack Obama and President Joe Biden, with a former brain, offered final waves, no, Joe Biden didn't, to Peacock Theater crowd as Obama then grabs Biden's hand to lead him off stage following the 40-minute show. It's a show, and it was all a showbiz thing. And they're all wearing matching things, very, very dark blue or black suits with white shirts with no ties, with the collars open. And they're dressed like the Japanese in the 1980s in their uniforms. Pretty amazing stuff. Now let's get to some audio on this because this was really another moment that shows that Joe Biden ought to go. And I get what Bill was saying, and he's not wrong. If you get rid of Joe Biden too early, and as Bill was saying, they might pick Mike. That's Michelle Obama, also commonly referred to as Mike or Michael. I know a lot of people just call her Michael Obama. But here's what it sounded like. Now the stuff sounded crazy. Let's get to this ad first because they've got a new campaign ad out. And it's just the attack on President Trump. I don't even want to play the whole ad for you. Just the point of the ad, which is their phony New York City lynch mob, which, what was the crime again? Some paperwork thing where he paid his lawyer for being a lawyer. And then the Democrats charged him with 34 felonies. And the Democrat jury found him guilty of all 34 felonies without deviation. All 12 jurors, all 34 counts. And I think none of the jurors have come forward. I heard some other people start talking about this on Friday. None of the jurors have come forward. CNN already talked to a juror from the Hunter Biden case in Delaware. But in New York, not a single juror has come forward because they're a lynch mob and they live in shame. They've disgraced themselves. They went to perform their civic duty, and instead, what they did was they brought a rope and they showed up with their white hoods on. Long Democrat Party tradition. So a little clip from the new campaign ad, the whole point.
This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
Yeah, that's it. He's a convicted criminal who's only out for himself. I'm sorry, Ukrainian money, Chinese money, Russian money, one of the Stan's money. I can't commit to memory which Stan it is that the Biden family was taking millions from. They've all taken in millions. The whole damn family has taken in millions and millions of dollars from foreign entities. Who's out for themselves? He never legally made more than like $200,000 a year, and somehow he's got these multi-million-dollar hoses. So we'll get to his daughter later. But and speaking of which, Dr. Jill Biden, well, she's got some extracurriculars planning to do too. But that'll come out later. That's amazing stuff. So they got this convicted criminal. He's as opposed to Joe Biden, who's for you black people. And even though he's, eulogizing the exalted cyclops of the KKK and doesn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle and hung out with the likes of Richard Russell, who they named a Senate office building after a Democrat from Georgia who's a segregationist, racist, but never mind all that. So amazing stuff. CNN liked the ad, though, because, it calls President Trump a convicted criminal.
Now, this new ad push comes just a few days after President Biden teamed up with former President Obama and some Hollywood stars for a major fundraiser out in Los Angeles that brought in $30 million for the campaign. That's a Democratic record when it comes to fundraisers.
It is or it's not. Some say it is, but the White House said it's a Democrat Party record. And didn't they just break a record at, where were they, Carnegie Hall or I don't think. Radio City? Yeah, maybe Radio City Music Hall in New York, a big theater. And they said, oh, we've just broken all records for fundraising for Democrats. Then they go to L.A. and they hang out with Jimmy Kimmel, really, and Jack Black, and a new record again, while they complain about money and politics out of the other side of their mouth simultaneously. Isn't it great to be a Democrat? Just amazing stuff. And by the way, they've announced a $50 million ad, the Democrats, Biden people, $50 million ad campaign push is coming. It's brand new. It's coming just around the corner. And it's going to focus on black voters and Asian voters because the party of the KKK and Jim Crow can't get enough of racial polarization in the United States. Now, if you're a black voter, now you know if you're an Asian voter, you know that they've betrayed you every step of the way. And they want to discriminate against you getting into Ivy League schools because you study too much and do too well and don't do enough drugs and no Russian hookers and stuff like the Biden family. And I think all Democrats, pretty amazing stuff. But they got a $50 million ad campaign, $1 million just people of color, Asian, black, what they say is non-white voters. We're thinking about pulling the electricity from everybody. And no more air travel, no more cell phones for you. Just be glad you can hang with us and shut up. Just sit down over there and shut up. So just amazing stuff. And let's get to the wander off the stage thing because President Trump weighed in on that too. Now on MSDNC, they very excited about the big record haul of money that the Democrats brought in. And then the next segment will be about the evils of money in politics because they talk out of both sides of their rectum at the same time. I'm sorry, that's their mouth. They're treated very much the same way. Mika and Morning Joe.
Our top story this hour, the Biden campaign took in a record haul at a star-studded fundraiser over the weekend. The campaign says it raised more than $30 million in Los Angeles on Saturday, breaking the record for the Democratic Party's largest fundraising event ever.
Really?
NBC News could not independently verify that claim.
When did you guys start trying to independently verify the things that the Democrat Party told you to parrot on the air? Don't be ridiculous. That'd ruin your whole project. You silly people. Ridiculous. All right, more of Joe Biden in Los Angeles, our corrupt media, our filthy, corrupt news media. And Joe Biden, what should you be most afraid of? Most afraid of? Where should your fear be placed? Well, Joe Biden shared that with the left-wing extremists at the gathering in Los Angeles. Michael, did they go out and loot after this? You got that many Democrats in one place. Usually they're burning police cars and looting drugstores, aren't they? Usually there's a mass shooting involved when you have this many Democrats in one place. No doubt about it. So we got that coming up. All right, much more to get to. I got Barack Obama spoke a little bit. He lied. He lied his bony rumpus off. That is coming up too. That's what he does. He's a liar, but he's the puppet master behind Joe Biden. Had to walk him off stage because his brain, she's a broke. Let's go to Ed, calling from Charleston, South Carolina. Eduardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Biden is so proud of all the millionaire and billionaire celebrities that have contributed to his campaign. Why in the world doesn't he tell them to please donate to the, I think it's called CAL FIRE, because all of these fires are within 10 or 15 miles of Los Angeles, where he had his brilliant campaign fundraiser.
Yeah.
These firemen are they're unbelievable. They're working themselves to death, really, with all of their work. And you have Biden proud that he's collecting, I don't know if it was 30 million or 50 million, whoever you want to believe. And And you'd think that he would ask those very rich celebrities to contribute to the firemen and all of their families who are doing such unbelievable work.
They should pay their fair share. Yeah, they're a giant wildfire, 1,200 people evacuated, 16 square miles burning, on fire. And you're right, California firefighters, and particularly people that fight the wildfires, they're brave kind of superhero types. And I lived out there for 7 years, and there are always fires there, always disasters there. It's the land of disasters, no doubt about it. But the Democrats don't care about that. They say, well, we pay our taxes, as few dollars as they possibly can, thanks to their accountants. And that's fine when they do it, but terrible when anybody else does it. They don't pay their fair share. But you're right. The Democrats and these California millionaires and the George Clooney's, he got like $300 million for a vodka company or something, didn't he? And maybe he should give that to the firefighters. But no. Well, there's an old saying, Ed, and that is, were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. Am I right?
You're right, you got it, kiddo.
That is a fact, Jack. Were it not for double standards, they would have no standards at all. Oh, it's funny. Somebody pointed out that, Louder by Crowder, Steven Crowder, put something out on X over the weekend that I want to share with you. It sounds like something you might have heard here.